The honourable member for St. Paul's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to speak this evening in favour of my colleague's motion, which seeks to clarify the ongoing confusion regarding the registration process for members of the recently created Qalipu Mi'kmaq First Nation Band in Newfoundland. We must remember that these criteria are the culmination of a process that has extended back through various phases for decades. The most recent phase began in 2002 when the previous Liberal government initiated renewed good faith negotiations with the Federation of Newfoundland Indians to redress the historic exclusion of status for Newfoundland's Mi'kmaq people. Les discussions en étaient centrées.
The discussions were based on the recognition of people living in Newfoundland under the Indian Act. After constructive discussions, an agreement in principle was reached in 2007.
Of what these negotiations were attempting to redress. Generations of prejudice and marginalization induced many to hide their Indigenous heritage, and as a result, whole family histories have been buried. Exclusion from the status under the Indian Act not only denied Newfoundland's Mi'kmaq people access to supports available to other First Nations, but robbed them of recognition of their identity and cultural heritage. The ongoing process is an attempt to reverse centuries of damage, but the current government's mismanagement has left many Qalipu feeling victimized yet again. The 2007 Agreement in Principle proposed specific terms for the recognition of membership in and operation of the soon-to-be-created Qalipu Mi'kmaq First Nation Band. Canada ratified the Agreement in Principle in 2008 and made a commitment to the Qalipu that the federal government would honour the terms of that agreement. However, it has been brought to the attention of our caucus that a number of applicants are concerned that, despite the fact their membership application was submitted within the prescribed time period, their applications have not yet been reviewed under the processes established with the 2008 agreement.
Given that the 2008 agreement ran out or expired on March 31st of this year, there are serious concerns about applications that may be excluded from the process, especially since the number of applications was higher than expected.
Added to the concern of many applicants when he spoke in this House on March 28th, referring to the application numbers as questionable, I quote. The criteria for enrollment were arrived at through consultation and negotiation, and the government must work in cooperation with, not dictate to, the Qalipu to sort out any legitimate registration issues. But let me be absolutely clear that the Liberals believe the federal government must ensure that legitimate applicants are not excluded from the membership process. If the process is flawed, if the criteria are problematic, then the fault lies with the Conservative government, not the applicants under the current process. It was this government that negotiated the criteria for enrollment, and now, at the end of the process, has suggested that it wants to change the rules. It is not the fault of the applicants that the number of membership applications exceeded expectations. The Parliamentary Secretary also spoke in this House about ensuring, quote, the integrity of the enrollment process, end quote, but this is an agreement the government signed in good faith only 5 years ago.
As a matter of fact, the Prime Minister personally signed on behalf of the Government of Canada and publicly announced the creation of the Qalipu First Nation in November 2007.
About the integrity of the enrollment process, we also have to consider the honour of the Crown, which requires the government to keep its word. How will the integrity of the process be upheld for the remaining unprocessed applicants who applied under the same criteria as the more than 20,000 applicants who have already received status under the existing criteria? How could it be fair to process the rest under different criteria, or worse, change the rules for individuals who have already been accepted? Instead of calling applications made in good faith into question, perhaps this government should work with the Qalipu to ensure all applications are processed according to criteria already agreed to by the federal government. Le gouvernement conservateur
The Conservative government must honor its commitment to register each eligible member of the Qalipu First Nation and to be consistent in the process.
for an extension of the 2008 agreement in order to ensure that the remaining applications are assessed and processed. The motion being debated today calls on the government to do just that and extend the 2008 agreement until all applicants who applied on or before November 30th, 2012 are processed. In addition to the extension of that agreement, basic procedural fairness dictates that the current rules of eligibility for membership are followed by all government decision makers in any continuation of the enrollment process. I note that this year marks the 250th anniversary of the Royal Proclamation, and in that context, it's important to honor the original foundation of that relationship, based on partnership, respect, and cooperation for mutual benefit. If in the 21st century, First Nations cannot take the Crown at its word, we will never achieve the reconciliation and trust that is so crucial to moving forward towards a more prosperous common future. I urge all members of this House to support this motion, which brings clarity to the government's commitment that no eligible members of the Qalipu Mi'kmaq First Nation Band will be excluded from this important recognition of their proud heritage.
Resuming debate.